Okay. Hello, everyone. I am so excited that we're starting my birthday month, my favorite month of the year, with my favorite person on the planet, the Bharon Hoag. Seriously, y'all, I love this man. We almost were going to be 5 minutes late starting this webinar because I have enjoyed the last 15 minutes of just catching up with him. Um, he is the executive director of One Chiropractic. If you do not know who he is, he's also this profession's number one fan. Um, I will never forget the moment I was sitting in a classroom in Florida, and he introduced himself as a chiropractic groupie, and I thought, God, I want to be just like that. So here we are, chiropractic's two number one chiropractic groupies. Um, but he has been in the business of healthcare and chiropractic for 2 decades. The heart and passion that he has for this profession is unbelievable, but it's one of those things that when you are around him or even in the same room, you feel what he feels for this profession. It's absolutely incredible. It will take your breath away. Um, he's got a really great extensive bio. You can read all about him and everything that he's done because basically he's absolute perfection, and I love him. And so I know you will feel the same way, so I'm going to be quiet and turn it over to Bharon. Thank you, Bharon, for being here today.
Well, thank you, Christy. I tell you what, when I'm having those days where I'm not feeling so good about myself, I'm just going to call you. That was way over the top, but thank you. And you know that the feelings are very mutual between you and I. We have a very common mission in life, and so I appreciate going on this journey with you. So thank you for the opportunity today. Well, listen, everybody, today I'm going to go a little bit different direction than you probably hear a lot of people talk. I've been doing this, as Christy shared, for right under 25 years as a non-chiropractor in the industry of chiropractic, everything from owning and operating clinics to consulting to running a state association to working on national projects with national groups, to doing what I'm doing now with my nonprofit, One Chiropractic. And I'm kind of on a mission. My personal life mission is to make chiropractic the number one healthcare choice in the world. I know that's super lofty. I know it's a great soundbite, but it legitimately is my life's mission. I'm head over heels in love with what chiropractic is, but that love also breeds some frustration. And that frustration is the way that our profession has really carried itself over the last 124 years, and the way we work together, the lack of the ability to work together, to the way that we carry ourselves publicly and all that other fun stuff. But primarily today what I'm talking about is how we put all of the responsibility on the shoulders of the chiropractor to tell the story of chiropractic. And I feel that it just that mindset has really not been productive. Again, we're 124 years as a profession, and the world, for the large part, still doesn't really understand what chiropractic is and what it does. And we're still dealing with a lot of the bias and a lot of the inequality in healthcare that we've kind of dealt with from their very inception. There's still pockets of that throughout the world. So I feel we got to change the way we look at things. And one of my favorite quotes is from Einstein that says, "You cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created it." And so today I want to change the way we look at something, and hopefully you'll find some value in the information I'm going to share with you. But if you get nothing else out of our time today, I hope that it's not just your responsibility as the chiropractor to tell the story of chiropractic. As a matter of fact, we do a pretty poor job of it because we don't even agree on what chiropractic is, and we confuse the marketplace. So today I want to share with you, how do we change our relationship with our patients to where we let them become our sounding board, and we can just continue to do the things we enjoy doing, which is treating our patients and doing the type of stuff we do in our offices. So before we get too far, I want to kind of give you a little bit of a background. I think it's important that we kind of understand where we came from so that we can alter where we're going. And I'm going to give you a little bit of a history lesson because I'm telling you, when you're the biggest groupie, you spend time learning about the profession and how we evolved as a profession and the players and the different personalities and the accomplishments that have happened over our 124-year history. And so those of you should know, 1895 was the year that chiropractic actually started with D.D. Palmer, who was our founder of chiropractic. And then we have B.J., his son, that was the developer. But in 1895, the first adjustment was administered. There's some argument about who it was, but Harvey Lillard is the universal understanding, the janitor that worked in Dee Dee's office complex, and it restored hearing. And from that moment on, it validated a lot of the premises that Dee Dee had, and he further developed and researched and came up with this concept of chiropractic. And from 1895 to about 1975, I'm going to argue, was a period of time in our profession where, although we've never really unified and agreed as a profession, we were all on the same mission. Because during that period of time, there were chiropractors that were being thrown in jail for practicing chiropractic. They were stating that they were practicing medicine without a license. And so in Ohio, which is the state that I'm from, we had the most imprisoned chiropractors of any state as it relates to this issue of practicing without a license. And so I had the privilege of really interviewing some of these people and listening to really what happened back then. But in this period of 1895 to 1975, really the profession of chiropractic was focused on one thing, and that was telling the story of chiropractic, explaining why we were separate and distinct and why we were different and what we had to offer this healthcare world that medicine really wasn't offering. And for the most part, that's pretty much what everyone's focus was on. Yeah, we still disagreed on techniques and things of that nature, but for the most part, we spent all of our time telling the story of chiropractic. During those periods of time, it was pretty much a cash business. Insurance wasn't covering it. We had to, basically impress upon ourselves and the public really what our value was, and we created value, and people would come in and pay for it. And the reason 75 was kind of the end of that period of time is it was a significant time, and this applies to a lot of the people in the South, but the last state to actually get chiropractic licensure was Louisiana, and that was 1975. And so at that point, our profession had been fighting. We had this thing called the Wilkes case, which was a very pivotal case in the history of chiropractic. We proved that the American Medical Association was trying to extinguish the profession of chiropractic, and we actually won. And that came through in the early 80s. Then we had Medicare recognized us as a true specialty, and Medicare considered us a physician for evaluating and treating the subluxation. And then Major Med started covering us, and we entered the period of time called the Mercedes 80s. And the Mercedes 80s were amazing because everybody was paying us. Insurance companies were paying us. They didn't know what they were paying for. They just were paying us because all of a sudden Medicare recognized us, so third parties started recognizing us. And everyone was just living the dream. We were getting paid hand over fist for chiropractic. We didn't have an adjustment code, so we were billing E&M procedures, if you can imagine that, billing a 99213 every single visit, or 212, whatever level you met. But you're billing E&Ms for every single visit because there wasn't an adjustment code, and we were just getting paid by everybody. It was a glorious time in the history of chiropractic. But then something dramatic happened. At the end of the 80s, early 90s, managed care was introduced. We went from HMOs to PPOs to all these different formats of health insurance, but as they were hemorrhaging money because they were paying like crazy for healthcare, as healthcare was advancing through technology, different specialties, all this stuff was happening in the late 80s, early 90s. The insurance companies created in-network. They created this PPO type plan that you had preferred providers, in-network providers. And our profession kind of bit that hook, line, and sinker. And we said, dude, we want to be on the preferred provider. So they came to us and said, listen, we're going to put you on our quote-unquote special list, but the only thing we want you to do is to take a little bit of a fee cut because we're going to be sending all of our people to you. And so we started buying into that. And then all of us know, as we've been a part of this history since then, ever since then it's been just massive reductions in fees. It's been restriction of access to benefits, all of these games that we have to, essentially play to get paid, all stemmed from that period of time. And so since then, something pivotal happened in the mindset. Remember how I shared with you from 1895 to 1975, our profession was pretty much focused on telling our story, getting people to understand why chiropractic was different, how we were separate and distinct, and why people needed to consider a chiropractic approach. In the 80s, we went to finally resting, if you will, as an industry and just absorbing the benefits of all of our work, to managed care coming overnight and essentially cutting in half the income to our people. And since that day, this has been our reality. We went from, as a profession, telling the story of chiropractic to figuring out how to get paid. And if you guys are honest with yourselves, those of you that are watching this webinar, if you're honest with yourselves, you spend more time in your practice figuring out how to get paid, whether that's dealing with insurance companies, writing soap notes and narratives, dealing with PI companies and attorneys, or trying to get in network, or whatever the case may be, you spend more time figuring out how to get paid for what you do than you actually do telling people why they need you. And so I'm a firm believer that if we want to fix the issues that we're dealing with today, just like we overcame all of the hurdles that hit our forefathers, it's got to come back to us telling our story. It's got to come back to us sharing with people the power of what chiropractic does. But I am going to suggest we do it in a little bit of a different way. But we have to accept the fact that if we stop focusing on getting paid and we start focusing on telling our story is powerful enough to be able to break down the issues that we still see today with restriction to access. And I say this with such confidence because it's what I do every single day. Literally every day I find ways to tell the story of chiropractic to break down walls. I'm dealing with insurance companies all over the country. I'm dealing with large employers. I'm dealing with political entities, explaining to them how chiropractic really works, how it should be utilized, how it can deal with things like opioid crisis, how it can deal with cost containment, how it can deal with increased outcomes, how it can deal with preventing disease rather than treating disease. All of those issues are what I spend every day talking about. And as a non-chiropractor, I've been able to knock down doors and cause change that is generational, but it's not because I've been worried about getting chiropractors paid. It's because I've been worried about people understanding chiropractic. When they understand it, they're going to want to pay for it. And that's the reality we have to get to. So I'm strongly encouraging you guys, stop figuring out how to get paid. Start telling the story in every aspect of your practice. One, it's going to bring your joy back to your practice, but two, you're actually going to produce better outcomes. Whether you're doing that with your patient or whether you're doing that with the insurance companies, you're going to find that telling the story of chiropractic is far more powerful than playing the games of reimbursement. It's just a completely different shift in our mentality. So, okay, Bharon, we're with you, all right? We've got to get back to telling the story of chiropractic. So how do we tell it, right? You know, if you're looking at the purpose of chiropractic is to change lives, both emotionally, physically, chemically, physiologically, whatever method that turns you on. If you're going to come from that perspective that we have got to start communicating chiropractic effectively, this is where we need to sit down and say, well, what's the best value? You know, if we're going to communicate it, what's the best way to communicate it? And this is going to vary from person to person. Some of you are good orators. You're a good communicator. You're a good speaker. Other people are good at building presentations or doing the actual art of chiropractic, not necessarily speaking about it. But we got to look at what are our options at getting this thing communicated. So to prove a point of what we do to ourselves every day, I'm going to go through an exercise with you. So you're going to see these dots. So on your screen, I want you with your finger, marker. I don't recommend you mark up your monitors, but whatever, trips your trigger, I got no judgment. Your objective is to use 4 straight lines. You cannot lift the pencil. So maybe do this on a piece of paper in front of your computer. You cannot lift your pencil. So you can't just lift it, draw a line, lift it, draw a line. They have to be connected. You're going to do 4 lines, and they have to go through the center of every one of those dots. That's your objective. 4 lines, and they have to go through the center of every one of those dots. Take a second look at it. It can be done. 4 lines. They must be tied together. You cannot lift your pen, and you go through all center of those dots. All right, for the sake of time, I'm going to show you how it can be done. But it requires you to look outside of the boundaries you put on it. Now, I never told you that you had to stay within the confines of the box that those dots created. But you created that limitation all on your own. You did it because that's just where your mind puts you. And you started believing, well, I've got to function within these boundaries because if I don't, then that's cheating or that's not doing it appropriately. But I never gave you those instructions. And I honestly think that's the issue we have in chiropractic. We've always done things a certain way, and we hold them as some, biblical truth that we have to maintain, even though we're still not producing the results we want. Well, the truth of that is that's the definition of insanity. When you do the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, that's insanity. And that's kind of what we do in chiropractic. I said it when I opened the webinar. Einstein said you cannot solve a problem with the same mindset that created it. Well, if we're still going to keep dumping more and more stuff on the shoulders of the chiropractor, expecting them to be the HR director, expecting them to be the accountant, expecting them to be the doctor, to be the HR, to be, the marketer, all of these different things, it's not okay, because you guys are really only good at and trained at being the doctor. And I don't mean to slam you, but I've met a lot of chiros over my day, and there's a lot of them that are not very good at the business aspect of healthcare, but they're phenomenal when they're on their bench, and that's really what you've been trained to do. So we've got to be realistic that it doesn't have to fall on the shoulders, and we've got to start thinking outside of the box. You got to change the way you're approaching this issue. Now, let me be honest with you. If you're looking at society and the way that the trends are working today, and I don't have a slide on this, but this kind of proves my point perfectly. What is the best way to raise money in today's world? If you had this idea and you wanted to develop this new product and you wanted to create some phenomenal new product, most of the people will generate money through something called Kickstarter, right? And so what it is it's called crowdfunding, right? So there's other platforms like GoFundMe, when people, have a health crisis and they're trying to raise money to help somebody because they need to pay for their medical expenses or yada, yada, yada. It's crowdfunding. It's going to people and we're feeding off the energy that other people have. And we just don't do that very well in chiropractic. We keep our relationship with our patients, really focused on us helping our individual patient. And we have not broken through that to say that one patient is a part of a bigger mission that we're a part of. And if you have the opportunity, I'm going to highly recommend sooner than later that you go to YouTube and you look up this guy, Simon Sinek. He is absolutely phenomenal. And when I teach this and I have more time and I'm at a live event, I'll actually play a clip of his talk, because it's so pivotal and it changed the way that I view myself in the world. And Simon says people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. I'm going to say that again. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. You see, we spend so much time talking about chiropractic, but chiropractic is your what? I love that you're chiropractors. I love that you're practicing in chiropractic, but that is not who you are, and chiropractic is the trade. Why are you a chiropractor? Why did you start doing this? If we don't start getting back to the purpose of why we're doing what we're doing, people are going to continue to look past us, or they're only going to come to us because they're in pain and then they want to get out of pain, and we're losing that true connection to our patients that we really should have. Because I would hope, whatever your philosophy is of chiropractic, I would hope we can all agree that chiropractic is not about getting people out of pain, right? That was never the way we were intended. You guys are more neurologists than you are, therapists. I mean, we dealing with the brain and the neurology of the body than we do anything else. And so pain is merely the fire alarm, right? And that's not the fire, that's the fire alarm that goes off. And so we shut the fire alarm off so that we can get to the business of taking care of the fire. And the fire becomes a neurological issue. And that's where chiropractic actually has its greatest impact, is neurologically, in creating a change in the neuroplasticity of the brain. And if we don't start communicating to people why we're doing what we're doing, then we're going to lose them because we're so busy talking about the what. And here's just another little simple gift that when I'm spending time with people in their offices and we're talking through how they process a new patient, people are not coming to your practice to become a chiropractor. And I see some report of findings, and it's like, dude, you're turning them into a chiropractor, and that's not what they want. This is oftentimes why you have such a poor compliance with your patients, is you're not really giving them what they need. You're so busy trying to force them into understanding chiropractic. They don't need to understand chiropractic. What they need to understand is why they're coming in to get care. Over time, they will start to ask the questions that help them understand what chiropractic is and why it works. But when you're in the first few visits, your job is not to turn them into a chiropractor. It's to let them know they're in the right place. It's to give them a plan, a direction of where we're going, to be able to give them the quality of life that they're really after. And yes, their symptoms are part of that, but the body doesn't actually start healing itself until it's asymptomatic, right? I mean, the body's in lockdown when it's in symptom mode. It's preventing any further damage. It's not in the business of self-healing and self-regulating when it's in that defensive mechanism. Once they get asymptomatic, that's when we can do the really great work of changing neuroplasticity, postural distortion, all of those fun things. So when we start explaining why we are in chiropractic, why we love chiropractic, rather than what chiropractic is, it changes the entire dynamic. And you've got to get back to that. And maybe there's some questions you guys have to ask. Maybe you've got to ask yourself, why did I become a chiropractor? What is my purpose? And we're going to get that in a minute, some homework that you guys have to do to kind of find your why. But your why is so important because it alters your communication pattern with your patient and it changes their expectations, right? You've got to understand. I actually just had a call this morning with a doctor in Florida that I've been working with, and they're struggling because they're attracting new patients, but people aren't staying. And I kept explaining to him that if we don't redefine success in our patients right from the very beginning of care and create a new set of expectations, we're going to be fighting them throughout the entire process of the care. So in the very beginning of your care, if you don't lead with why you're a chiropractor or why your office practices the way that it does, you're going to fight these people that are coming in and that you're attracting from a plethora of different methods. But we've got to reset their expectations. I don't know if you accept this or will believe me, but your satisfaction in life, whether it's life in general, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your practice, is all based on your expectations. And people always ask me, Bharon, how is it that you stay so positive all the time? Every time we see you, you're full of energy and you're always so positive. And the honest to God true answer is because my expectations of life is so low that anything short of being beaten, killed, murdered, raped, I'm pretty ecstatic, man. If I expect people to lie to me and cheat and do all this stuff and they don't, I'm pretty happy. You become pretty tolerable. And I'm sure some of you are laughing at that, but I'm not saying it to be funny. I really have very low expectations so that I am never thrown off my game when I get out there. Now, I am human. I have my days. But for the most part, I don't expect much out of people or situations. So anything that happens is pretty phenomenal for me. And that plays a lot into your own life, and it plays a lot into the way that you approach your practice. But more importantly, it plays into how your patient views success in your office. When they come in on day one, they have a set of expectations. Maybe as limited as they are. They don't understand what chiropractic is, but they're expecting something specific to happen. If we don't reset those expectations and create a new reality for them that's built on the why we do what we do in chiropractic, they're always going to be judging you with the wrong set of answers. And this is why we lose a lot of our patients, because the reality is retention in chiropractic is pretty abysmal as a whole. I mean, it's about 5 to 6 visits. And I've seen this from major insurance companies analyzing data to myself analyzing, being involved with thousands of chiropractic offices over my time. It's pretty bad. I mean, that the average new patient stays with us for about 5 to 6 visits of controlled care, meaning they're not dropping off and coming in whenever they want. You guys lie to yourselves every day and say that your retention is about 25, 26, but that's because you're taking your total new patients and dividing it into your total monthly visits, and that math's not authentic because your monthly visits are not completely made up of your new patients. Your monthly visits are made up of a bunch of existing patients plus some new patients. So the only way to get your true retention is to actually track your new patients over a 3-month period of time and find out how many times they came in before they broke their care regimen. And when you follow that, I'm telling you, it boils down to about 5.5 to 6 visits, which is why groups like Optum and ASH and these other groups use that data to abuse you when it comes to benefits, saying that they shouldn't have to pay you any more than 5 or 6 visits because that's the national average for chiropractic care. So, all of these reasons come down to us not resetting expectations with our patients and not creating a new reality for them of why they're coming in. It isn't about how they feel. Use whatever analogy you want, from the fire alarm to, a gas hose to your engine, whatever analogy. There's a million of them out there, but you have to reset their expectations. And by the way, that should happen before you do the exam, right? We've got to change the conversation. And for those of you that might be turned on by the new information we're finding about the neurology of chiropractic, dude, I'm telling you, it's the most exciting conversation on the planet to have. I'm totally geeked right now about what's happening neurologically in our profession. I'm on a mission of taking our conversations from pain to brain. It becomes so much easier to relate with your patients. It fits more, for me, philosophically, to what Dee was really talking about, and BJ in the Green Book, and Stevenson in the Green Book. Stevenson didn't have a Green Book, but the 33 Principles, all that stuff really was based in a neurological approach, not the structural approach that we've kind of evolved into over time. And so when you change that conversation and you explain why you guys exist as an office and why you became a chiropractor, why you did those things, it's pretty phenomenal. Well, Simon Sinek also said one other thing that I think is very, very pivotal. He said the goal is not to do business with everyone that needs what you have. It's to do business with those that believe what you believe. I mean, how powerful is that, right? The goal is not to do business with everyone that has a heartbeat and a spine, right? Because right now that's pretty much what you're trying to attract in your office is anyone that has a heartbeat. You're going to try to bring into your office and have, and you're going to do your magic on them, which is phenomenal. But half of those people on that schedule, you want to slit your wrist to see them. I mean, they just drive you insane, but they're a number, they're a body, they're compensation. And so we kind of tolerate them. Now, don't think about those people because honestly, you're probably going to see them later this afternoon or tomorrow. But we have those people that we attract that really drive us insane. But what happens when we actually start attracting people that believe what we believe? And the only way you can do that is when you're leading with your why. When you're explaining to people, this is what I believe. So when I teach this at a live event, I kind of go through this analogy with people. Imagine that your office had a huge window that was on the busiest highway in your town, and you put on it, I hate abortion. That's a pretty, a confrontational topic for sure. But let's say you did that. There's a pretty good percentage chance that you're going to lose some patients over that. Because they're going to think that you're sexist, they're going to think that you hate women, all this stuff. Now, I agree with that, and I believe that to be true. But and that stops most of you. That the idea of losing patients, of offending them or being rude, it's going to stop you from doing something that radical. And for some of you, that's probably a good thing. But let me flip the coin on you. We believe in universal laws, right? We know gravity is a reality. I mean, even BJ said that, chiropractic's like gravity. You don't have to believe in it for it to work. And so we know that gravity is a universal law. Well, we have another universal law that we found that Isaac Newton taught us that said with every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. Now, let me say that again because most people get that quote wrong. They say with every action, there's an equal reaction. No. There's an equal and opposite reaction. So now let's go back to our analogy of the abortion statement. So I put that on my wall, and let's say I lost 15 patients. Now, if I apply that Isaac Newton law to it, and it says with every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, then what does that tell me? If I lost 15 patients, that means I'm probably going to attract 15 patients. There's going to be people in my community that say, holy cow, good for that guy. I agree with him. I didn't even know there was a chiropractic office there. Well, that's where I'm going because I agree with them on that. See, that kind of changes the game, right? We were so focused on repelling 15 people that we didn't realize by standing up for what we believe in and saying it with truth and boldness that we might actually attract the same amount of people that we repelled. And people laugh at me, and Christy can tell you this because her and I have spent a lot of time on the road together, but I kind of covet repelling people, man. I like sharing space with people that are not of the same energy level that I am. Doesn't make them wrong or right, doesn't make me wrong or right. I just don't waste time on people that are not of the same mission that I'm on. And again, it doesn't make me better or worse than them or vice versa. I just refuse to sit there and humor people that drive me insane. And so I don't. And so you either love me or hate me as a human being. And I'm completely okay with that because you'll find the people that are in my life, they all raise me up, man. They all make me want to be a better person. They all help me be this powerful as I can be in this world to influence it for the sake of chiropractic. So that's just what I choose to believe. But it's from this premise. I don't need to do business with everyone. I only want to do business with people that believe what I believe because I don't want to waste my energy trying to convert somebody all the time. Now, I'm not saying there's not times that doesn't happen, but it's not an everyday occurrence. Now let's go back to the last 10 new patients that you've had. How many of them have you actually had to force them through the process? And how amazing would it have been if you have that one patient that just got it? They got everything. They agreed. They committed. They signed up. They paid. It was phenomenal. What if all of your new patients were like that person? Well, that only happens when you lead with your why statement. If you have something bold that you're going to say to the world, and you're going to start sharing this message of what you believe. See, it isn't your job to tell the world about chiropractic. It's your job to tell the world about you. It's your job to explain to the world what you do, how you're different. And this isn't about saying you're better, because I don't know that anyone's actually better. You're just right for a certain group of people. And your job is to find those people. And right now, you're attracting people that should not be at your office, which is why it sucks the joy out of your life. So some of you need to start firing some patients to make room for the right kind of patients to come in your office. But that only happens when you're completely sold out to telling the world who you are and what you believe about chiropractic. And it's okay if you and I completely disagree on what chiropractic is. I'm totally okay with that because I know there's a whole world that's looking for different aspects of what we're doing. I don't believe there's only one way to communicate chiropractic because I don't believe there's only one type of person that administers chiropractic. I believe we're all different. We all have our own thing. Every chiropractor has bastardized the profession of chiropractic in their own way. And that's okay. That's what makes you unique and different. But that's the stuff you're supposed to be talking about. So I have people that I've worked with that are very pain-oriented. They only see people while they're in pain. That's not my ball of wax. I don't necessarily buy into that, but it's not for me to tell them they're wrong. If that's honestly what they believe and what they want to do, that's great. But I train them on how to refer these people over to a wellness practice so that we can maintain wellness, right? They don't have to do it if they don't want to do it, but they should at least get these people to a place where they have the option of maintaining health rather than waiting for it to deteriorate all the time. But if that's all they want to do, that's what they want to do, I'm good with that. That's your why. That's what you're going to lead with, and it's all good. But you've got to start attracting the people that believe what you believe. So here's how we're going to start this game, right? Because it's got to start specifically. The first homework assignment you have is you have got to tell me why you became a chiropractor. And if I have staff on this call and it's not the doctor, you're going to ask your doctor this question. Now listen, I don't want the Cliff Notes version of why they became a chiropractor. Well, my dad was a chiropractor, so I became a chiropractor. That's the Cliff Notes. I want the long, romantic Lady and the Tramp sucking on a piece of spaghetti version. I want to know the truth. That there's a path that everyone has taken. Nobody goes to chiropractic school because they woke up and said, maybe I'll become a chiropractor today. We are not that common of a topic. I get we're becoming more accepted. I get we're becoming more visual. But anybody that's in practice today, there's a story that got you there, whether you were a patient or an athlete that went to a chiropractor, or maybe you are a third or fourth generation chiropractor, but that's still a story. I want to know why. And every single one of your staff should know why you're a chiropractor, and every single patient should know why you became a chiropractor. It's so important that they understand what motivated you to take the time and to spend the money to do what you're doing. Because, listen, I know the world thinks you guys have like an associate's degree, but I am fully aware of how intense the chiropractic program is, and I know the financial sacrifices that everyone that is a chiropractor took to become one. There's a story there, and it needs to be told, and it's your story, and you need to be telling it. The second question you're going to ask or ask of your doctor is, when you were in school, there was a period of time where you envisioned what your clinic would be like, and you just could not wait to open your doors because it was going to be something different and unique and powerful and life-changing. And then all of a sudden you graduated and you realized that you had to start financing your own life, and then you just started going wherever you could get paid, and you lost that vision. A small percentage of people built what they really wanted to build, but the majority of chiropractors just end up living a certain life because that's just the path that they took. It's not the life that they wanted. And we've got to get back to knowing what that vision was that you had when you were in school and you had zero boundaries, man. Money wasn't an issue because you were living off of loans, and you were going to go out and you were just going to kill it. I need to know that story because we got to start building that. And we got to get excited again about wanting to practice full of personal injury patients, or maybe a practice full of pediatrics. I mean, imagine this, if your why statement was to ensure that every child in our community was adjusted before they hit 2 months of age, because you believe if that happens, you can eradicate a number of current childhood chronic conditions. I mean, that's a pretty freaking awesome story, right? That's something to be able to tell the world that's going to attract a bunch of people that might want to join that same mission that you're on. And so if that was your vision in school, is to have a pediatric practice to change an entire generation of people and their wellness and their mentality and their neurological function, dude, that's exciting to people. Not everybody, but here's the beauty of the chiropractic business model. You don't need that many unique people to have a killer practice because of the frequency in which we see people. So you don't need everybody to agree with this. You just need a few people, and those people are going to share it with other people. But you've got to lead with your mission and your why. You are not telling the story of chiropractic. You're telling your story because you're trying to attract people that believe what you believe, and that's the whole mission in this. Now, I'm going to just lie to myself and assume that everyone on this thing is 100% on board with me, Says, Bharon, that's the most amazing information I've ever heard. I love it, but you're not going to do it. And you're not. And there's a reason you're not going to do it. And it's the worst 4-letter word that exists in the English vocabulary. You guys are so deathly afraid to do anything other than what you've been doing, because at least what you've been doing has kept you, around, has kept you surviving. But I want to give you the biggest definition of fear, the best one that I could find when I started looking for this and researching what fear really was. Here's the best definition that I could find. It said fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It's a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. I mean, think about that for a minute, because that applies in so many aspects of our life, that we allow things that do not exist and may not ever exist to stop us from doing the things that maybe we were called to do, that maybe we were created to do, that maybe deep down inside of us we've been so motivated and desiring and wishing and wanting so bad, but we stop because of things that don't exist. Guys, we got to stop that, man. I don't understand. I mean, this is kind of what drives me every single day, is how can the most amazing profession on the planet, I mean, next to God, the story of chiropractic is the most life-changing story I know. I mean, salvation is by far the most powerful story. But next to salvation message, the story of chiropractic, I don't know of anything else on the planet that is as powerful as what we do every day. And for it not to have taken off and changed the world like the gospel did back in its day, it's because we've just stopped telling the story. I mean, literally, I would hope if we were all in the room right now and I have you raise your hand, how many of you honestly believe that if chiropractic was introduced appropriately to enough paying people, we could have eradicated the opioid crisis? I mean, seriously, I believe, I drink the Kool-Aid. I mean, I'm 100% in, but I believe if chiropractic was used appropriately, we could balance the federal budget. Because people would be happy and healthy and they'd be working. We wouldn't be spending as much money on pointless things in healthcare. We wouldn't be duplicating services. We wouldn't be creating the very epidemics that we're going bankrupt trying to cover. All of that crap if people were properly adjusted from birth to the grave. That's the world I live in. But why are we allowing fear to stop us from telling that story? Why are you not beating down the doors of all of your patients saying, listen, do you understand what you're a part of? Why are you not, when patients walk in your door, are you not freaking celebrating, saying this is the best part of your week, what's about to happen? You have no idea how powerful the adjustment you're about to get is going to rock your world. Man, we're glad you're here. I mean, that excitement it becomes magnetic. It becomes an epidemic when you're that excited and that motivated about what we do, because your mission is bigger than just your individual patient. I said that earlier, that I felt that where we kind of went wrong as a profession is we started treating the individual patient as the most important thing to us. And that's not true. They are merely a piece of a bigger picture, right? So, and I don't want to get super biblical with you. I'll be very honest with you. I'm a very strong Bible-believing man of God, and it's a very important part of my life is Scripture and God and Christ and all that awesome stuff. But I want to look at it from a historical, not really a divinity-type standpoint. But do you understand that the reason that the gospel was as powerful as it was is because Christ changed the whole mentality of what it was meant to hear the gospel story, right? I mean, you have the 12 disciples that were fighting over each other to say who was the closest to Christ. The Last Supper, they were fighting who got to sit next to him, all that stuff. And Christ just stopped and started washing their feet. Now, understand at this time, he was calling himself the King of all kings. Like, I am the king of every king that's ever existed on the world and that will ever exist in the world. But yet he's down washing the feet of his disciples. He's changing that entire model of what it meant to love somebody. And it becomes service, not worship, meaning not to build idols and all that other kind of stuff. And it changed that entire perspective. But here's the most important thing about the gospel that he changed with the disciples. He said, listen, I didn't give you this for you guys to sit in this room and be an elite group of people. I gave you this. The Holy Spirit is going to fill you. And they filled them that night at the Last Supper so that they could go and tell others. A teacher that goes to school, What is their entire purpose of being educated? Is it for them to sit and say, I have a teaching degree, and sit in a room and say I'm more educated than someone else? No. They're taught that information to go and tell others, to teach others, to spread that information. When did we as a chiropractic profession stop understanding that our patients are not just patients for us to treat, but they're vehicles for us to use to change the world around us? The most amazing thing you could do in your practice is on day one with your patient, when you're going through your exams and you're going through the report of findings and all the stuff that you do, if you add to that just this one thing, imagine this, just add this one thing to it and say, Susan, man, we are so glad you're here. There are two things that I'm motivated about this. Number one, I'm very confident we're actually going to be able to help you, and we're going to help you live your life as brilliantly as possible. We want you to live the highest life expression you can. We're going to get you out of pain, but more importantly, we're going to get your body functioning properly so that you stay out of pain. But the second thing I need you to understand, should you choose to become a patient in our office, is we actually want to educate you so that you can go out and you can tell others about what you learn here. Because I think everyone would understand that right now healthcare is in a massive flux, and the quality of health of most of the people in our country is very poor. And we believe the information we share with you, you can actually change the lives of others by sharing it. So we're asking that if you're going to become a patient here, that you're actually going to join with us in making sure that our community is the most educated community in our country on understanding what health truly is. And so you're commissioning them right on day one, just like Christ commissioned the apostles. He said, if you love me, you're going to tell others about me. He didn't say, if you love me, you're going to worship me. He said, if you love me, you're going to go tell others about me. That's the entire way the world changed through the gospel. Why can't we do that in chiropractic? Why can't we look at our patients, stop being afraid of them, thinking you're a big salesman and you're doing all this stuff, all the fear things that limit you, and you just go in and say, listen, I am so glad you're here. I'm glad you're here for two reasons. Number one, we want to change your life. We want to give you the highest life expression possible. But number two, you have an opportunity of changing the lives of those around you, and all we ask is that you share what you learn here with everyone else in your life so that they have an opportunity to make good choices as well. Can you imagine that if we did that? If we were so on fire for what we did every single day that we could not wait to educate someone else, knowing that they were going to go and tell another person that we probably wouldn't have access to. Folks, that's what I'm talking about. You've got to stop being afraid. You've got to have a mission, a why statement, a vision. Literally, this is how our profession from 1895 to 1975 grew. It grew because people were so passionate, they were willing to stand up in the face of possible persecution and still tell the story. You know those guys that got arrested for that got thrown in jail for practicing chiropractic without a license? You know what those momos did when they got to jail? They stinking adjusted the inmates and the guards. I mean, come on, you want to talk about commitment and love for what they do? That's the passion I'm talking about. But here's how you got to start mobilizing everything I'm telling you. You got to find a cause. If you go and watch that Simon Sinek video that I talked to you about earlier, just Google it, Simon Sinek, Leaders Start With Why. He actually talks about Martin Luther King. And he explains why Dr. King was able to do what he was able to do in a period of time where we have no internet, we have no ability to communicate, no cell phones. This all happened word of mouth, but yet all of these people showed up on the right day at the right time in the middle of August, right? And he explains that it wasn't because Dr. King was right with everything he said. It's that Dr. King had a cause that other people could attach themselves to. And the beauty was it wasn't a black versus white, because 25% of the crowd was white. So it wasn't even a black and a white issue. It was people were there because of them. They were there because they connected to Dr. King's vision. His vision was, until the laws of man are matching the laws of a higher authority, there is no justice. So people could apply that to whatever they wanted to, but they connected to the mission. Imagine if you led your office stating that our mission is to ensure that people do not have to take a pharmaceutical drug to get through life. We want our community to live life at its highest level without the assistance of something from the outside. We believe that's possible. We see it every day. Or maybe your mission is, I want to make sure people are swing dancing into their 90s. There's no reason that your elderly years have to be the most miserable, health crisis-ridden time of your life. You could actually be healthier in your 90s than you were in your 30s. Right? That's possible. We see it with people that live the appropriate lifestyle, and we have the key to that. Where is our passion for that? Why are you getting so caught up in insurance reimbursement and HIPAA compliance and Medicare audits? And I get those things are all realities. I'm not dogging them. I teach that stuff. So I know it's a reality. But man, the minute you allow that to take your joy over what we can possibly do to the livelihood of our community, it's just nuts to me, man. And if you're surrounding yourself with people that are all gloom and doom, then you got to get yourself some new friends. You got to get around a new tribe of people that believe there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor. You've got to find a cause. What is your cause? And this leads back to the questions that you ask yourself. Why did you become a chiropractor? When you were in school, what was the vision for your practice? But find a cause, something that's bigger than the individual patient. You can't say your cause is to help people. You can help people by getting them drunk, right? You got to help people, through a direct cause, something that is bigger than you or the individual patient, that people can attach themselves to, the exact same way that people create crowdfunding and do all of those things. So here's a process that I want to put you through. This is a phenomenal book, Jesus CEO. It's not a super biblical book. It's more of a history book on understanding how Christ ran, quote unquote, his business of the gospel. And man, Laura Beth Jones did a phenomenal job of really depicting the model of how he mobilized his sales force, which is the apostles, and it's a phenomenal book. But in it, it was that process that I just talked about. And as I was thinking about how Christ commissioned the apostles to go out, if you love me, you'll tell others about me, I thought, man, why don't we do that more in chiropractic? So I developed this quasi-system called turning your patients into apostles. And so I want to teach that to you because it's a highly effective way at getting your patients to go out and tell the story of chiropractic so that you can just stay focused on delivering what chiropractic is. And so the first thing you do is you wait for the trigger. The trigger is that moment that your patient totally believes chiropractic works. For some people, that's visit 2. For some people, that's visit 7. For some people, that's visit 9. But we all know when that moment hits because they come in and they're like, holy cow, man, I haven't had a headache for a week. Or I haven't actually slept that long, and I can't even tell you how long. There's a period of time or a moment in time where they come in and say, this is incredible. This stuff really works. That's your trigger, right? So you wait for them to be ready to hear what you have to say. This is my issue with report of findings and what I stated earlier about you guys trying to turn people into chiropractors. You need to wait for them to be ready to receive the information you're dropping on them, and that trigger is what you're looking for. So once they come in and tell you that, then you share your why. And I want you to share it passionately. So Susan comes in and says, my gosh, man, I haven't had a headache in a week, and I cannot tell you how long. Thank you so much. This is incredible. Say, Susan, I am so ecstatic that you're experiencing that, and that's just phenomenal. But you know what? I'm not the one that actually, needs to hear that. Our mission is to make sure that our community understands that health is not the bottom of a prescription bottle, that they can have health, and their body is a self-healing, self-regulating mechanism that is able to really take care of itself if we remove interferences. And then this is the last step, that I shared my why, and now I go into commissioning them to share. So, Susan, will you do me a favor? Will you tell at least 2 people about your experience? I don't even care if they're in our town. This isn't about getting new patients. It's about making sure people are aware that there's an option, because there are so many people that wake up every morning taking pills that think that that's the only way that they can survive. And as you're experiencing right now, that's not the case. So please do me a favor, and will you share that with them? The best compliment my patients can ever give me is telling other people about their experiences. So that's not salesy. That's not cornering them and saying, who do you know lives locally and has a health problem? This is really just about giving them an opportunity to be able to go forth and tell their story. So, I hope this information has been helpful to you guys. I know we're ticking into our time here, but I just want you to fall back in love with what you're doing. I wanted to give you something tangible that got people telling their story. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with it's kind of my dirty secret. It's a project that I'm not asking you to buy anything. I'm not selling you anything. But to back up what I'm doing in life, One Chiropractic created this project called One Grateful Patient. Whether you know this or not, that our profession does not have an accumulation of patient stories. There is nowhere that we've collected the millions and millions of stories of patients that have been affected by chiropractic. So I'm the kind of person that if I want something to happen and it's not out there, I'm going to do something to make it happen. So we created this website called One Grateful Patient. And this site is purely for the purposes of collecting stories from patients. And we want them to tell it in their words. Now, for doctors that jump into the system, again, there's no cost to you to do this. But we send you a bunch of marketing materials that you can put in your practice that are soliciting your patients to tell their story. Then it does help with referrals because we communicate them in the back end and say, thank you so much for telling your story. Please make sure you tell your friends and family the power of chiropractic and get them into your doctor's office. So there is a back-end benefit to those doctors that decide to help us market this, but it's really just about collecting stories. So here are some stories. You can go to the website right now. We've got over 1,000 stories that we've already collected. My goal is to get to tens of 20, 30,000 stories, because our mission is to actually change the digital presence of chiropractic, which means we want to get to the point where someone can Google earaches and One Grateful Patient becomes the first engine or the first site that pops up with about 30,000 people talking about how chiropractic could help their children with earaches. That's the vision we want. Well, right now, we don't even show up for low back pain. We're on page 7 when someone Googles low back pain. So we're trying to change the digital presence, but that only comes when we create an arsenal of information that talks about that particular issue. So although I'm not a symptom-based guy, this site does track our patient stories by the condition that caused them to seek care. So you can go to it and look at them. It's amazing. Here's a bunch of different stories that are there. We categorize it by the condition. So if there's 27 stories about back pain, then they're all going to be there of patients telling their experience. It's phenomenal. If you ever get depressed or you ever forget why you're doing what you're doing in chiropractic, go to our site and read some of these stories. They're absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. All they do is fill out their information and tell their story. There's no back end to this. We're not soliciting them. We're not doing anything. It's a phenomenal source. So if you're interested in being a part of this and starting to collect stories, if you do this and you send enough stories, we'll actually build a landing page for you that you can tie to your website for all your stories so you don't lose those stories. We know that you're busy trying to promote your own practice and get that stuff done, and I totally get that. But we are on a mission to make chiropractic the #1 healthcare choice in the world, and the way of doing that is getting our patients to tell the story the very same way I want them to start telling the story in your practice. So I'm going to leave you with this. This is one of my favorite quotes on the planet, and it's from Buckminster Fuller. It says, "You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change, you build a new model that makes an old model obsolete." And that's what I'm asking you guys to do. I want you to fall so head over heels in love with chiropractic again that you're so busy telling the story that you don't allow the other junk of being in business to rob your joy. And you're going to find that the story is powerful enough to be able to break down the walls of everything from reimbursement to the bigotry that happens out there to the inequality issues in healthcare. All that goes away when you're attracting people that believe what you believe. You're providing a quality service to your patients, and they're going out and telling others about it. It's a phenomenal model. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for loving what I love. Hopefully this information has been helpful for you. And if I did my job, then maybe you're a little bit more excited about being in this profession of chiropractic. And this afternoon, you're just going to go out and you're going to rock it like you haven't rocked it before. So we love and appreciate you. Christy and ChiroHealthUSA, thank you so much for this opportunity to share to your people. We love and appreciate you, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Bharon. Rachel from Colorado just wanted to say hey. She just typed that in.
What's going on, girl?
I would like to express that she was one of many people who missed you while we were in Vegas a couple of weeks ago. So if you have any questions for Bharon, please submit them now. I have no doubt that you're going to, get back to treating patients this afternoon and have just a renewed just energy and spirit for what you're doing, because that's how I feel every single time I have the opportunity to hear Bharon speak, whether it's on a webinar or live and in person. And y'all know me, 100%. There's nothing like hearing someone speak in person. And if you have the opportunity, if you're going to be at a Florida event, any of the Florida events, and you see Bharon is doing a panel or teaching a class, make sure you sign up for it. Go attend it. I can't even talk. I'm so excited. He's going to be speaking in Louisiana later this year. If you are interested in reaching out and having Bharon speak to your association, hit reply to the email that I sent you with all the information reminding you about the webinar. We'll make sure we get that to Bharon. We get him booked to speak at your event, because hands down, he is one of the most requested and popular speakers that we have, because he has such an incredible impact, and it's no surprise that he's one of the highest rated as well. So if you're interested in seeing him live and in person, reach out, let me know. We'll see what we can do to make that happen. make sure you two reach out for the One Grateful Patient Project because this is so incredibly important. I will tell you the happiest part of my day is at the end of the day when I'm looking at the Facebook posts with testimonials from patients because it reminds me exactly why we all work so hard for this incredible profession.
Right, that's right.
So just a reminder, next week we have Dr. Jay Greenstein talking about technology within chiropractic. So make sure that you register early for that one. I've seen a lot of people talking about that one in social media. If you're not following the Clinical Compass, which is an organization that Dr. Greenstein is part of that is all about the research that helps to support everything that you do in practice, please make sure that you're following them. There's a great video that's circulating right now about how the Clinical Compass was an integral part of making sure that chiropractors all across the country are still being paid for the treatment of headaches from United Healthcare. In fact, there's not a single chiropractor in this country who even missed a single payment from United Healthcare or had a delayed payment for adjustments that were submitted for treatment of headaches, because that is how quickly the ACA, the ABCA, the Congress of Chiropractic State Associations, they jumped on this, sent in the research from the Clinical Compass to support the treatment of headaches, and before it ever went into effect, it was reversed. That decision was reversed. So make sure you watch that video and learn more about how this organization is so incredibly important to this profession. And then we're going to be talking about HIPAA compliance. And then if you're interested in possibly doing a multidisciplinary practice, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it. We have Dr. Mark Santa who's going to be talking about that wrapping up the end of the month before we cruise on into April. So just be on the lookout. We're updating webinars every single week. We're going to have May and June up in the next 2 to 3 weeks. We have some pretty exciting speakers headed our way. So make sure you register early, put the reminders on your calendar. Thank you so much for being a part of the webinar series. And be on the lookout to see Bharon back here again later this year because, well, he's my favorite. I said it. He's my favorite. Y'all have an amazing rest of your day and a fabulous week, and we'll see you next week. All right, we're off there.